Good evening. My name is Thurman Greco, and the name of this show is Let's Live with Thurman Greco, and it's coming to you from scenic downtown Woodstock, New York, and channel 22 of our public access television station, and it is also coming to you from YouTube. This Let's Live with Thurman Greco, and we've been on the air about 20 years. There have been a few times when I wasn't able to come regularly, but for the most part, we have been on the air for about 20 years. And we've got a really, really interesting show this evening because we have a set of guests that I've never had before. I really don't even know who they are. And they are going to be having their own show. What is your show going to be called?
Our show is Save Our Scene, and it's a weekly dive into the art and ethos of the Woodstock artist community.
Oh, that's very interesting. So what motivated you to do this?
Living here, I grew up in New York City, and I was an artist and a musician and an engineer. And when I moved here, I discovered how community and the artist colony have their own social economies and their own investment in all of us. You know, and this thing, it really just intrigued me, and being part of it was such a gift. Now we're in times when I've come to understand that people really don't even understand the theory of a bohemian artist colony. What is such a thing? And I'm just thinking that now's a good time for us to start this.
How did you find this TV show? How did you find this program?
You mean our local public access?
Yeah. How did you find channel?
I've lived here for 30 years. It'll be 30 years this July. And when I first moved here, I did have, for a while, I had public access TV, and I'd seen our local TV passing through, and it was quite active at the time. And recently, 5 years ago, I graduated from Ithaca College, and I was in the politics department and the media production program. And so I had learned some skills and started working on a couple of documentaries. But the idea that this station is not that well funded and is needing, more content, it just fell together. I mean, friends like my friend Anna, and others, we've been really relishing what we have here and seeing how many challenges exist, and understanding that if we don't talk about who we are and what we stand for and what we're trying to achieve, we'll lose it.
I think I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was getting ready to say, can you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. My name's Anna Womak. I've lived here for probably about 10 years, originally from Western New York. For me, I think one of the reasons why we wanted to do the show, and a very important part of it, is that going back to what Michael was saying about utilizing the public access station and discussing with people what this community really is that we're also living in a very dark and hard time right now. And a lot of people need inspiration, they need that sense of community, and so this was kind of our way of figuring out how we can contribute to filling that need, at least in some capacity, and trying to be part of this community in a larger way and reach more people.
That's very, very interesting because you are self-motivating, which is really great. I was not self-motivated. I was pushed onto this table by a man who was the president of the committee, and I don't even know if they have a committee anymore. Mm-hmm. His name was Richard Spool, and he kept saying, you need to do this, you need to do this. And then I was with the Woodstock Democratic Committee, and they wanted to have a show that talked about politics.
Yes.
And that lasted one season. And it was fabulous.
Yeah.
But that season was over, and then I just moved into my personal interests.
Right.
But it is so nice to have a new show of people who are self-motivated, because I really was not. You're interested in the arts, and I'm interested in the man on the street. As a member of the Woodstock Historical Society, I feel like the real history, the current events in Woodstock are the people, the men and the women that are walking up and down the streets and who are living in the community that nobody ever really, not the movie stars.
Sure.
If you have a secretary, if you have somebody that is between you and the public, I'm interested in someone else.
Yeah.
And so that's where I came in. But I am delighted that you are here. I'm delighted that you graduated from Ithaca, and I'm delighted that you are interested. I was reading in the paper this morning, I believe that there was talk at one of the recent town board meetings about trying to get some rejuvenation and some money from whoever it is that funds this. I don't even know.
Yeah.
And you know, Ellen has been with us for 40 years.
She's excellent.
She is the
She's
life
excellent.
and the breath and the soul of this room. And it takes, when you graduated from Ithaca, do you know how to work these machines?
Yes, they had wonderful production facilities in the Park Media Center. And I had quite a bit of agency as a non-traditional student. I mean, I graduated at 60 years old, having only entered with a GED, you know.
Hey, man, I'm 85. What, you know, you're a spring chicken. You just graduated from college. I got my training. I tell you how I got my training to go on this show. Richard Spool kicked me out and said, do it. And he and Terry Rosenblum. And I got on a bus one Sunday and I rode down to the public access station, knocked on the door and said, I'd like to come in and see what's happening.
There you go.
And they welcomed me with open arms twice. And then after that, they were through with me. So I can't work any of the machines. So this is going to be so wonderful. How often are you going to have your show?
Every week, right?
Weekly at
Yeah.
6:30 p.m.
At 6:30 p.m. what day of the week?
Thursdays.
Thursdays at 6:30. And have you put on a show yet?
No, we were actually creating some content for the show just prior to you coming in.
Yes.
And our first show will be this coming Thursday, May 21st at 6:30 p.m.
And your show will go today. It will go, and then next week today's show will go 3 or 4 times a day for a week on the carousel. So it gets a lot of coverage. And then it goes on to YouTube, which is really great.
Yeah.
One of the things that I learned the hard way, and I had to go down on the bus to the city to learn this. I had the most boring show in the world. I would have, we would have, this is what we're going to talk about. This is how it's going to work. You're going to say this. That was awful. The worst show I did, the absolute worst, fortunately somewhere it got lost in the shuffle and it has not made it to YouTube. I interviewed the 2 members of the library board. Oh, no. They demanded. We had rehearsals. Nobody made it through that one. They turned that one off immediately. So that's one of the things that I learned. For me, no rehearsal, no nothing. But are you going to be interviewing people? Are you going to be playing music? Are you going to be talking? What are you going to do?
Yeah, the show will be, we'll feature artists every week from different disciplines, and we will feature issues every week that affect the community. The idea of delving into the art ethos, and as you say, the everyday people who help us co-create our community and our culture here is fascinating. And if you've lived here for a while, or if you've just arrived, you realize that every third person you bump into has quite a story or something about them that just makes them a marvelous personality study and a community member. And so
let me ask you something. Do you feel like you're a Woodstocker yet?
I do feel like I'm a Woodstocker.
Do the people in
many
Woodstock
decades.
Do the people in Woodstock feel like you're a Woodstocker?
I would say many of them do. I would say many of them
Many
do.
of them do.
But
They
there
don't for me.
are people. Now, I arrived here in '96, okay, and at that time, there were still a lot of people who came in 69, 70, and their impression on the town, you know, and their contributions to the town were very, very solid. But they weren't considered, you know, upstarts and transplants and carpetbaggers. So after 30 years, I finally feel like I belong.
You feel
And
like you belong?
yes, I've shed a lot of the New York City that I arrived here with.
Well, I feel like I belong, but I'm a committee of one. I can't speak for any of my neighbors. I can't speak for anybody that I buy groceries from, or I can't speak from. I'm big at the flea market.
Well, I think if you've been here for 20 years or longer than that, you've had a show for 20 years, I would say you're a Woodstocker, interviewing Woodstockers. No? No?
I think it takes at least 40 years.
Interesting. One of the best compliments I ever got was I was talking to a local community member once, and they were talking to me about something that happened back in like 2007. And they're like, you remember that, right? And I was like, I was not here until 2017. But that was a very nice compliment, because it meant that they really thought that I had been here and had been part of the fabric of the town for a very long time. It meant a lot to me. It was very touching.
Yeah, that was a compliment that you need to take with you to the grave. Keep it close to your heart, honey.
Yes, absolutely.
Close to your heart. So you started your show. Who are some of the guests? Have you lined up any guests?
We've got a few people who've already consented to be on.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And one is Robin the Hammer, Robin the Martel, fine artist in many, and a wonderful musician. Filmmaker Chris Finley. I'm no doubt we'll have Journey Blue Heaven in at some point. She's a friend, but I'm looking to bring people like Paul McMahon of the Mothership in, since his organization is really the heart of what the old town, or what the best of the town represented, which was the artist community self-organizing and presenting without waiting for the town to empower them. They're just empowering the artist community.
They have to empower them. You have to empower yourself.
Which is hence the name of the show, Save Our Scene. It's up to us to save our scene and to really celebrate it.
So what are some of the other, you said you're going to combine people with issues?
Yes.
What are some of the issues that you might be focusing on, maybe?
Well, there are so many. I mean, we have issues that speak to freedom of speech and freedom of assembly. Now, as we all probably understand, Woodstock has been a colony of thinkers, people who were not bound to cultural norms, people who maybe didn't, and people who believed that social progress depended upon good people taking public action, and being willing to put their principles into motion. And that's, again, this is something that not just this town has to rediscover, but our entire nation, needs to look at how culture is now delivered to us. Community is now not as much organically produced. We organically produce our communities by being involved in each other's lives. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, because of so much fear in our culture these days, many people have arrived in Woodstock looking to have a little safe enclave. And so they come in and they kind of buffer themselves in their little, and don't touch the community as freely as was normal when I came here in the 90s and prior to that. You know, anybody could wander off many people would come here either looking for a fresh start or perhaps fleeing some unfortunate circumstance in their life, and they would land up on that green and with nothing except what was on their back. And they'd meet someone like Jogger John, who passed a few years ago, and he would find them a safe place to sleep for a day or two, tell them where there was food for them, maybe be able to get them, you know, an entry-level job, just some way to get on their feet while they figured out their life. And you know what? Many of those people, you know, have a period of their life here, and then they move on to the next period of their life, hopefully better suited to meet the new challenges or the new adventures they're looking for. But a lot of them stay. And if we stay, you know, it's a comfortable place to be in a lot of ways, but if we stay, I find a lot of the best of us look for ways to be involved in community.
Mm-hmm.
Because we, you know, coming from New York City, again, I'd never seen anything like this until I moved here.
And I would say that I think a large part of our show is, going back to what Michael was saying, combining the micro of our local community with the macro of what's happening on a national scale or even a global scale. So one of the elements that I plan on bringing to the show is having my own segment. It's going to be called the Scenic Support Report International. And I plan on talking about what other communities are doing to enact positive change in their communities.
Oh,
what
that's
works
wonderful.
for their communities. And so the hope is that we'll remember, and it will spark that creative, you know, flame in us. Not that it doesn't exist now, but especially with everything going on nationally, I think knowing what works other places and remembering that we can do that here too, and we can make the changes that we want as long as we're working together. And that's the key.
That's, you know, I think that's wonderful. I am so happy for you. It's a good time for this. And I remember Jogger John. He was a wonderful person in the community and was open to all. And I don't know whether, I wrote about it in one of my books, but I don't know whether you were aware, Jogger John was psychic. And, you know, there are other people that you can go to in the community and you can blow hundreds of dollars and in some cases get a very, very good reading. Or you could go to Jogger John and ask him a question and he would answer your question. And I was in the food pantry and I worked, that was the downfall of the economy in 2007, 2008. And I worked here in the food pantry, I think, until about 2013, when I moved out to Boyceville and started another food pantry. But I asked Jogger John if it was time to go. When I had found that food pantry, I found it. And it didn't exist then, but I found the location. And he said yes. You know, it was very interesting. I went to Jogger John. And I was waiting for him to look on this shoulder and then give me the blessing.
Yeah.
He was such an important part of this community.
He embodied the Woodstock ethos in
Absolutely.
ways that were not contrived or forced. He just was who he was, a
Yes.
kind-hearted soul who saw past many things. And you brought up, you say he was psychic. I think, you know, so many times I would be walking through town, many times late at night, just trying to think, and something is troubling me, and I'm just trying to clear my head, and I would, you know, maybe be sitting on a bench at the green, and just trying to think, well, what am I going to do about that? And suddenly, he would just walk up here, and he would say something to me that just hit the nail on the head, or just prodded my thinking to the place where it may or may not have gotten to, which made a positive or a learning thing possible. And this, you know, I refer to it as the term crazy wisdom. You know,
Yeah.
we can't say, is it rational? Where does it come from?
Oh.
I don't know, but it seems to.
It was there, wasn't
Yes,
it?
yes. And he was quite an artist. You know his artistic history,
I
right?
no, all I knew from Jogger John was that he was a wonderful person who lived in Woodstock, who swept the streets and who answered my questions. You know, I mean, because at the time all I was doing was the food pantry. I mean, that was like more hours in the day, every day, 7 days a week.
Thank you.
But he was there. He was there. And you know, another person in this community that we've had, and I bet you know, is who is the guy who has the dreads around, and he's the Hindu Buddhist. I'm having a senior moment, which I do have when I'm over 85. It's okay because I'm over 85.
I started having him in my 40s.
Yeah, no, oh, well, okay, no, I didn't. Oh, but I know that he came here and he's now living in, you were talking about the artist that you wanted to get on.
Yes, Paul McMahon.
Sheep Mirabito.
Yes.
Yes.
Have we transed?
One of the great places, if you're in town and you want to see something, go to his shop.
Yeah.
His bookstore. I mean, he's a fascinating, kind-hearted person with a tremendous creative streak. You know, wonderful poet, and
very well educated.
Yes.
And appreciated and accepted by everyone.
Correct.
As far as I can tell, he is.
He's got an excellent collection and considers himself, and I believe he is, a historian in a lot of ways, particularly for the LGBTQ community, and has an amazing collection of books of all different kinds. You know, I go there a lot to buy books, more than I probably should, but he's got a great collection, so how can you help yourself?
You know, I found him that when I first moved here, I would go to the Colony on Monday nights for the poetry readings, and he was there, and I noticed that and I didn't know anybody, and I noticed that when he came in, everyone spoke to him. And then in the food pantry, he made it acceptable to go and shop in the food pantry for a lot of people who that was not a good place.
Yeah.
And he made it acceptable to them.
Well, I think one of his super strengths, honestly, is creating that sense of community and making people feel comfortable. He has his get-togethers and bonfires in the back of the bookstore throughout the summer, where he celebrates different poets and has people come and has featured writers. And everyone who comes, even first-timers, feel welcome.
Yeah.
They're welcome to have food. They're welcome to sit at the fire. They're welcome to read if they want to during the open mic session. And that's something that he's really passionate about. And I think it's very successful in terms of creating that sense of community, you know?
I may join. I'm a person who does not have time, but I only live a half a block away from him, so I may try to show up. It's on Monday nights.
Most of the time, but he also has events over the weekends, usually on Sunday.
Weekends, forget it. I'm at the flea market.
But this May 31st, he's celebrating the birthday of Walt Whitman in the back of the bookstore. So if you want to celebrate Walt Whitman, who is also an excellent queer writer, you can do so on May 31st at the back of the Shivastan bookstore.
Well, I would like to go when he's having poetry readings, because I went to the poetry readings, but I wasn't writing anything at the time. And of course they're not happening. So they're happening at his place. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So what are some things that you're really getting excited about challenging in your show? What are you going to do with your show? Have you thought, when you sat down, the two of you, and you started talking about your show, what are some things that really got the blood going?
I think for me, my biggest thing is I really want to challenge the sense of malaise or hopelessness that can come with the news cycle, right?
Yes.
And I think a lot of people feel really disempowered to feel like they can make a difference even in their local communities. And I also think that daily life has become so busy for many people that the thought of, well, I have this to do and I have this to do and I have this to do. I don't have time. I don't have time to do this. And the truth is that we do have time. It's about prioritizing what's important to us. And I think remembering what community is made of, what it is supposed to be, will give people that energy and hopefully remind people, again, reigniting that spark that's within all of us to make that difference, to be involved, and remember that we're stronger in numbers and we can do it together. There's no reason to feel disempowered. We have the power, always.
I believe that the real power of the people is in the community.
Yes.
And if you convince yourself that you're going to keep your community power here, that you can do it.
Yes.
You can do it.
Yes. And again, having had the experience of growing up in a place like New York, it was always, well, what can I do as one person? And even that was a false narrative that I adopted, from my culture, because one person can certainly make the difference in another person's life. At any station, a person you meet on the bus stop, a person you've known your whole life, a person you don't get along with. There's healing available, there's growth available, and if we all retreat into our own comfort zone and lose contact with that, our world shrinks. It's not healthy for us. We're social creatures, and we need each other. And this is good medicine, is to have community, to build community.
Yeah.
I really feel that this year is a very good year for building community. Especially in Woodstock, not only, everywhere. In small town USA, this is the year to do it. Really.
If not now, when?
If not, and here you are, you're building community. You have felt the same need as so when did you start talking about this?
Oh, last summer, I think, was really kind of when the idea sparked. But I have to be honest, and I have to say that I really appreciate Michael, because Michael really took it on in terms of getting us set up with training. I was trying to get us going, and then I was having a hard time, and I dropped the ball, and I was not in a place where I was ready to do that. And so he really took up the mantle and got us the training that we needed to really get the ball rolling, which I'm very grateful for. But I would say just about a year of germination and thinking, but it was ideas that we were already having, in other conversations, and kind of coalescing them into a common vision.
Taking this, you have a new idea that it germinated a year ago, last year. For other people who are at the beginning of their journey, we have space in our community access TV. But there are other communities, because this is going to go on YouTube, there are other communities throughout the country who also have space.
Yes.
They are not all in need of equipment. Some of them are brand new, some of them have no equipment, some of them, whatever, but it's there.
Yes.
It is there. So what are some things that you can use to encourage other people who are where you were last year?
Well, I would like to speak to that and build off of what you were just saying about there being available space and people feeling like, oh, well, I couldn't do that. It really doesn't take much to get involved. If you can think through what your theme is or what your flair is, there is training, there is empowerment, there are people who will arrive when you need them to help build what you see. And then you have co-producers, we had lost that. Part of why the show came and what we were working at was that we felt our artist community suffering under the weight of gentrification, and then with certain actions that were being taken politically with the town that would rein in the artist colony, I saw something happen. Over the 30 years that I've lived here, I came in and I saw all of these wonderful people who build things. My goodness, Family of Woodstock, what a great organization, that came out of the 1969-70 era when the town was overrun with people, who had just arrived here, who needed help. And we had gotten to the point where the idea that Woodstock actually belongs to the community members who live here, and that we don't lack for resources. They're not always allocated in a way that's favorable. For instance, if we don't support our public access television station, Spectrum will be very happy to come in and provide content and take over our station. And then what we'll have lost is what so many cities and communities have lost: their local reporting on their local issues. And this is fundamental to how we maintain democracy. We must have ways in which we, the people, can discuss the things that concern our families and our communities. And it seems like, well, Spectrum is giving us money and we can put that money in the general fund and it helps with other things. Yes, it's good to have that money, but it's also good to take part of that investment and put it back into the community building services like our local TV station, and get those things empowered. We're going to spend money to help build up our youth program. Well, there's a budding film industry in the Hudson Valley that's been pretty much, it's almost been ignored. And we could have younger people learning technical skills at our, perhaps, we don't have teachers here, perhaps they have to be 18 and over, but whatever it is, we could have people training for meaningful careers in an area while they're serving their community at their local public access TV station, and getting their own message out, as well as building the feeling of agency that we have. If you come here and you just this or that, you feel like, well, who am I? But the longer you live in a small town, you realize nobody is disposable. We need every able-bodied person of good conscience to come to the table in the ways that they can and are willing to.
Absolutely.
You spoke about training. You said the public access television is a resource for the community, which in this community is not being used, and I just have not had the time to pursue it. We are an opportunity for young people in schools and in youth organizations to come in and speak and be before a camera. Public access television provides an outlet which, if people do not get it when they are young, they are handicapped because they can't.
Yeah.
So many times I have talked to people about coming on my show, and I realize they're scared to death.
Absolutely.
Because they didn't have it then.
Yes.
So now they don't.
Yes.
And this is a resource which should be used.
Yes. I think part of the issue now, especially for younger folks, is that with podcast culture, right, and with social media and making videos or reels on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, and even utilizing YouTube to some extent in that capacity, right? I think folks generally feel very comfortable with that. But again, generally speaking, I would say that's a very insular experience. A podcast sometimes will be maybe like 2 or 3 friends talking about things that are important to them, and not to say that that's not beneficial or there shouldn't be a space for that. But I think one of the great things about public access in particular is that, again, it gives you the opportunity to engage with your actual in-flesh, in-person community. Whereas digital community can be great, but it doesn't feel that need in the same way. Speaking from experience, I will say that. I've been involved in a lot of digital community, and I've used that as a placeholder for physical community for a long time. and it did not fill what I needed it to fill.
Okay, you got right there.
Yes.
Right there. You went to the heart of the matter
Mm-hmm.
right there. And this is where you're going to get that.
Absolutely, 100%.
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah, we're gonna do it. So, and I think that there is a way to bring, I think social media can be great, and I think that it can have a positive impact, but again, it has to be used intentionally, and I think you have to go into it knowing what you want to do with it. And I think there can be a bridge between things like public access TV as well as how we use the internet or how we use social media to communicate with each other. It can be done. And so that is one of my other goals, is to bridge that gap a little bit.
May I say something?
Please.
Yeah.
You know, the digital realm, okay, we have the agency to build our identity. And to some degree there's all different theory about that, and there's different reasons for it. But in truth, as social creatures, we don't build our identity in a vacuum or inside of our own thoughts.
Yes.
Entirely. We build our identity in cooperation with others.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that humanity will never lose, but we've come to think of it as building something together as like an antiquated, or it's almost like the poor relation. Oh yes, well now I have a $5,000 computer and I'm going to go make this fantastic
Yeah.
my identity is going to be out there. But in relationship to what? In relationship to whom?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we are community by being each other's servant, friend, host, mentor, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, that's because the word community is an extremely powerful word.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Communion. We are in communion with each other in our communist bohemian artist colony. I was raised by socialists. I can't help it.
Yeah. And I do think, going back to what you were saying earlier, Thurman, that the most important thing is taking the first step, which is sometimes the most difficult. And you can apply that to a lot of different situations, whether that's getting involved in your local community in the sense of starting your own public access TV show, or even in the sense of being part of your community. You know, I will say that when I first moved here, I lived out in the boonies and I was kind of isolated, but at that time that's what I needed, because I needed to heal and I needed to cocoon myself a little bit. But when I finally was ready to join the town, so to speak, I was really nervous. I was really scared, and I was not sure that I was going to be seen the way that I wanted or accepted, and I didn't know if I was going to fit in, and I had a lot of anxiety about it, which, you know, I carry that with me still a little bit, but I was. But you're never going to know what's going to happen until you take the first step, and it is terrifying sometimes, and it is scary, and sometimes you're not sure, but that really is the most important thing you can do, is just take that first step. And if it's scary, if you have somebody beside you that you can trust even a little bit, you know, it makes a big difference. And that's what community is about.
We're having a framework to come into.
Right.
You know, if there is no frame, you know, you want to come into the community, well, how do I find it? Well, I go down to the pub, or, you know, I go to a yoga class, or I do this or I do that. But in an artist colony, in a creative community, one of the most blessed things we have is the fact that your hand is welcomed, your hand is needed. There's no, you know, your creativity is admired, and so there's acceptance through empowerment that actually helps us to discover what our passion is and how we can contribute.
Right.
You know, and be understood.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and it's part of it is identifying and motivating the talent, really. You know, that first step is a killer. But if you once you see, as you have, if you run across another person, then when they get ready to jump off the curb or whatever, you just push them back on and keep going.
Yeah.
I think something that this station could use terribly, and it doesn't take, it's just a half-hour news show, Woodstock News, once a week.
Be
you
great.
know,
It would be wonderful.
Yeah.
You know, and so I said, we're looking to focus on the issues that affect the everyday people who are the artist community. You know,
I think your show is
and-
going to be
and
fabulous.
so-
I'm very
and so-
excited about
but
that.
there's, aside from that show, finding our niche, you know, our niche, there is room for a number of news magazines dealing with local issues, you know, and that's, you know, that's how we bring the focus back, because our elected officials, our public representatives and our administrators and our volunteers watch these shows. And the more content that's interesting and that deals with the town that there is, the more people will watch. And then they'll think, oh, you know what? I see there are other people who have certain ideas that I favor as well, that I rarely talk about. And this is, you know, this is how we build a future together and protect the legacy that Woodstock has of being, you know, I just love, you know, the Berry Cliff Colony, no disrespect, but the Maverick Colony. I mean, Herbie White is like my hero. I go up to the artist cemetery in the middle of the night and just ask him, what can I do? You know, how do we get out of this next mess? And, you know, it's good to know that we're part of a living, we are a part of a living tradition of compassionate people who care and who are somewhat adventurous, who are interested in building, not just for the sake of leaving something of ourselves, but building because we're all builders. We all build, you know, and as we shy away from that because we don't feel empowered, it's good to know that there are things like your public access TV station that needs your support and that offers a way. And through just finding one little part of the community that is doing good work, whether it's working with a food bank, whether it's, you know, working in any of the communities that need support, you find that one thread leads you right into the center of your own experience, and you're surrounded by community. That's what drew me into this town.
Well, now you got here, and then you decided, okay, there's a show there, and you talked about it, and you had the seed, you had the goal, even if it was a little teeny one, it was there. How did you go from, I'm going to do a show, to what was the next step? How did that happen? That's the leap right there.
You know, I have to say that although the idea had been in the back of my mind and I had been training, I started at SUNY Ulster before I got to Ithaca College, and I was in their media and communications program. But I think it might have been Anna who had said, you know, a TV, you know, that TV, and of course Fanny, who is always advocating
Yes.
for a little bit of upgrade, a little bit of respect, a little bit more participation for this wonderful resource we have here at WCTV. And it was those people at a time when we were reeling from loss through COVID. People, just so many people passed, so many people that were meaningful to my life, and, you know, were passing, and forms and things that I've come to more than appreciate. I've come to rely on as the staples of my life that keep me balanced and happy and well adjusted. That those things were slipping away due to, I'm not going to say lack of interest. We had a lot of fear. We've been, you know, since 2001, the various waves of people coming here, fleeing this and COVID and fleeing that and coming to Woodstock. The trauma that they arrived with, it can be released by becoming part of community, you know, and so in that, if we can do something to create forums like the one that you're sharing with us today, Thurman, and thank you for that. You're sharing your forum and your space with two people just starting out.
No, but this is really not sharing. This is This is so much fun. I mean, truly.
Yeah.
Having a show is so much fun. It
is.
has introduced me to a lot of people. It has introduced me to the community. It has given me an opportunity to learn a lot.
Yeah.
And then when I got on my soapbox, let me tell you, I'm there. I mean,
Yeah.
if you can see,
Yeah.
I
I have my own soapboxes. I do want to just go back to your last question really quick though, because I do want to say, and I touched on this a little bit earlier, Fanny was kind of an inspiration, not kind of, she was an inspiration for me. You know, I'd seen all the work that Fanny was doing, and it sparked the idea in me, and I said, my friends and I could do that. We could do that. Why aren't we doing that? Why are we not
Why
utilizing
aren't
it,
we?
right?
Why
And
aren't
so I came and I talked to Ellen after Journey had her show, and I was here with Fanny, and I said, what would I have to do to get a show? What would I have to do to do that? And we had an initial conversation. I took it back to my friends. We sat around a table and we talked about it. But like I was saying earlier, I really have to say that, although I brought the idea to the group in some capacity, again, I found myself in a place where I wasn't really ready to take next steps because I was really exhausted with some things going on in my personal life, right? And I just wasn't able to do it at that time. But I really want to give kudos to Michael because, again, I think having community and having friends is so important because I think he took that up and he said, hey, I'm going to go and I'm going to get this scheduled so that we can do the trainings. Are you still down for that? Do you still want to do that? And I was like, I absolutely do. Thank you for doing that, And so I think that's really what it comes down to in terms of teamwork, working together, and building something together, in community with your friends to make the world a better place and leave your mark in a way that is positive for everybody. And that's what that next step was for us. It was really just, again, like I said, getting your foot in the door, literally. And Michael was the one who made that happen in that capacity.
Get your foot out of your mouth and put it in the door. Come on down. We need you.
Yeah, that's right.
That's true.
Right.
And so now that you're here and in front of the TV screen, if you see somebody that has their foot in the mouth, but they haven't got in the door yet, do you see an opportunity?
I would say so.
I
Yeah,
do too because
I would say so.
I think a lot of us are trapped in that dynamic quite a bit these days. We've got our foot in our mouth because we're so frustrated and we're
Yes.
so angry and possibly scared and
Yeah.
so that we're using our small mouth noises to make
Well,
big poo-poo. Sorry, but no, to make make ourselves, our agency seems like it's always fighting back. But one of the things that I was learning over the last several years, working with many people in the community who have been doing, I haven't seen this town come forward and actually activate as an artist colony since I've gotten here. It was always, the people who were left from the 70s
Right.
and now,
it's time for the next step.
Yes.
right, it's time for the next, and so there were suddenly people saying, well, our local Pacifica affiliate's in trouble. We need that. Oh, our town governance is unresponsive or had been at times on certain issues, and well, we can do something about that. We can, and we don't have to go out there and just throw stones. It seems that that's a default. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, I apologize to all of you who I've offended, but over the years, but this is a default method of oppositional binary thinking. And the artist community is, my goodness, across the spectrum. There's so much nuance and so much room to flesh out that nuance. It's not an either or. You're on my team or you're not on my team. There are no teams. We're a community.
Yep.
And competition has its place, but consensus building really is how we get it done.
Yeah. And I think the great thing about living in such a creative community is that there's not just one right way to get there. The public access station is a great way to do it, and it is an opportunity, but also there are other avenues to get the community engaged and to get people together, and it takes all forms and it takes all avenues, and it takes all different kinds of people to make it happen in whatever way works for them. The hard part is finding that compromise or that gelling so that it's all working cohesively and in harmony, and that's not easy. But it is a part of the process, and it is possible. And that's the thing I think that we need to remember, is that it does take everyone. It takes a lot of different avenues and a lot of different ways to get there. Each one is valid and important in its own way, and it is possible to do it.
Just one little practical thing. You sparked a wonderful little discussion here with your question about, the foot in the mouth to the foot in the door. There's a dance. One of the best ways, you get that, you help someone get their foot out of their mouth by being gracious instead of oppositional when, understanding that our friends are frustrated, our community members are frustrated, they're having their own trials and tribulations and we can't even fathom perhaps, but if in some way, before they get, they remove their foot from their mouth or they get some help and before it goes in the door, maybe just dancing a bit, maybe just loosening up. There's a methodology towards transformation in people's lives that has to do with breaking the cycle of the negative thinking and the negative response matrix that we've adopted as part of our defense against a very, very troubling culture. But it doesn't just go right to I imagine their spiritual revelation, all of a sudden you just go from being someone who's very oppositional to someone that just understands the how wonderful it is to be part of community. But oftentimes it's that interim step where something silly, just this play, this dance, whatever the dance is, and we played with the idea of what we would do with a TV show, and we had many silly ideas, and some of them we may actually act on, others may, but that was the interim step that helped us feel as though we could do this. And so now our foot's in the door.
Yeah.
Well, and I think also that people have a fear of failure.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things I have learned is there are a couple of books out there about doing what we do. And I read one book, and the guy said, and I forgot the name of the book and the writer, but the guy said, have you put on a show that was so bad it embarrassed you? That one goes on YouTube. Have you put on a show where you got so angry you were spitting? That one goes on YouTube. So all kinds of shows.
There's a wide emotional range.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's all information, it's all safe, it's all true, and it's all yours.
Yeah.
And it's all human.
And it's all human.
It's all human.
I think we have to, as a culture, I think we have to look at how we define failure and what that actually means. I will say for myself, I tend to be a perfectionist, right? So if it's not exactly the way I envision it in my head, I get very upset. I have a really difficult time managing with that. But that's because I'm dealing with a definition that is not true to reality. And the truth is, really, I believe personally, that failure really comes few and far between. It's really a learning experience.
Yes.
Is what it is. And failure is a way to look at it, but it has such a negative connotation. It's a learning experience. And in drawing or sculpture, or even think of it like a baby. When a baby is learning how to walk, the baby's falling on its butt all the time, right?
Yes.
But then the baby's laughing. Maybe it'll cry if it falls on its face. But most of the time, the baby's like, all right, I fell, that's fine. I'll get up again. Let me do it again. Baby falls on its butt again. But then eventually it takes its first steps and it's walking.
Yes.
And then it becomes second nature. And I think that if we approached issues in our lives with, like Michael said, that sense of playfulness, right? Or that same kind of open energy, right? Then a lot of things would feel more possible. I think they would feel less scary because it takes some of the pressure off, and it makes it a little lighter. It puts a little bounce in your step,
That is very true. And it's just part of the journey. I don't know if you're going to keep copies of this tape, of the CDs or whatever, DVDs, But as time, I mean, they're just all part of your journey,
Yeah.
and they're all valid.
Which is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I look at poetry I wrote when I was in middle school, and there's a sense of being like, oh God, but some of it actually is really good. There are some nuggets in there that are really good, but I wouldn't have gotten to where I am today as a writer if I hadn't written those poems that make me cringe a little bit today.
Yes.
And what I was saying at that point in time was perfectly valid and truthful for where I was at that point in time in my life. So
And this room is a good space. It's a good size. It encourages you to say what is in your heart.
yes,
It
Yeah.
really does.
it does.
And how often do we get a chance to say what is in our hearts?
Yeah. We could do it every day
Thank you.
if we were open
could.
to it. Yeah.
Right.
But this, if you come in, what you say, Thursday afternoons?
That's right.
You come in Thursday afternoon at 6:30 and you say what is in your heart, what is on your mind. And then if nothing else works the rest of the week, you've got this time.
You did it the day. Yeah.
Yes.
It's true.
That's true.
It's true.
So that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. Every little bit makes a difference.
So I wonder what our time is.
We have, it's about over.
Okay, listen, if it's
Wow.
about over, will you very quickly tell everybody the name of your show, when it is, all of that stuff? This is your time now.
Go for it.
Woodstock Public Access Television, Save Our Scene, Thursday evenings at 6:30 p.m., beginning this coming Thursday, May 21st. Please tune in.
And eventually they'll be on YouTube.
Yes, okay, so you're gonna do the YouTube thing.
Oh, yeah.
I love doing YouTube. It's a whole way of seeing yourself,
Yeah.
Oh, we're down to 3 minutes. Okay, would you please tell your name
Yes.
and how you fit into the show?
Okay, my name is Anna Womak. I will sometimes be participating in skits and maybe co-hosting on occasion. I'm also going to have my own segment on the show called the Scenic Support Report International. And that will be my role on the show as also a co-producer. And I'm very excited about it.
And my name is Michael Mulvey, and I am the producer and the host of Save Our Scene. So please tune in and get involved.
Yeah.
And we send thank you to Ellen. Without Ellen, it wouldn't happen. Thank you very much.
Yay!